Finally, we're on the last chapter of section 2, which is the 6th chapter. And this summary is pretty brief. There's not really much to it, but I feel like I should still tell you anyways. So what happens is that General Lee meets with his 3 other generals, Ewell, Early, and Rhodes. And he discusses the war strategy, and then Longstreet comes and he suggests that they go behind the Union and they attack Washington, D.C. and the Union from the back. So that sounded like a good idea to me. I'm like, whoa, that's pretty good. And then Lee was like, no, that's too dangerous. Like, you're gonna kill a bunch of our men, and like you don't know since Stewart is not back, you don't know how many Union troops are there or like what's waiting for us. So if we go there blindly and then just get shot, and we're all dead and we're gonna lose, because they're gonna think that they won the battle. They're gonna be like all like courageous, be like, oh hooray, we're already like done with this stuff. So Lee went against that, and then their partnership kind of broke again. So after their talks about the war and the strategy for the second day, chapter 6 ends with Lee leading, and he meets with General Trimble. Weird name. He meets with General Trimble, and then General Trimble is he's furious that Ewell didn't take Cemetery Ridge. Okay, so I forgot to tell you this, but then Cemetery Ridge. Okay, so there was this high ground. Before Buford got there, Ewell could have taken it. The Confederate General Ewell, he could have taken what Buford got the high ground for, but then he missed that chance. So now Lee and Trimble are all like furious at him, and then Ewell was like, no, I thought it was like a little too dangerous and risky. And actually, like it may seem like a disadvantage that Ewell didn't take the Cemetery Ridge, but actually, you see towards like when they actually do like the real fighting on the second day, that was actually not a really bad idea, because it actually benefited. And if Ewell had taken Cemetery Ridge, then yes, Confederate troops would be a lot stronger, because they would have the high ground and the infantry on one side, and they could just like kind of like suck in all the Union troops. However, what happens is that eventually the Union breaks, and then the Confederate would actually have to separate into groups, and then no matter like where they were. So I'm gonna go back to my first words about this book. It's hard, it's boring, it's tough, but honestly, it's like one of those books that you have to read, kind of like Fahrenheit 451. Like it's really boring, and there's really no like you think that there's really no point in reading it. Like you don't see any point in reading a boring, hard, thick book. But it's really helpful to know about American history, especially in a book like this, not just read it in a textbook, because the textbook has the textbook is all like factual, and like so it's even more boring than this. And the reason why this is a little bit more interesting is because the author has a little bit of bias, I think. Like towards the end of the book, I can feel that Michael Shaara has a bias towards Longstreet. So when Lee and Longstreet are fighting, he always like kind of like leans towards Longstreet. And I was gonna say this in the last section, but I feel like I need to say it now because it that flow, go with the flow. So in the end, you already know because I told you that the Confederates lose eventually to the Union, the Battle of Gettysburg. So Longstreet blames Lee for not listening to him, because actually it's true that if Lee had listened to Longstreet, then they could have won the Battle of Gettysburg. But he was like so like stubborn and wanted to do it his way. He's the king, all that, center of the universe. He didn't listen to Longstreet, and then so what happened was since Lee was the higher position, when people realized that the Confederates lost and Longstreet had been blaming Lee for it, everyone started like hating Longstreet. They're like, oh, who do you think you are? Like, do you think you could have done any better than he did? Like, he tried his best. But then honestly, like, I don't think they could say that, because to Lee, his dignity and his pride mattered more than the war, because even if they lost the war, if Lee had used all his good men, all his artillery, then he would have just been known as he wouldn't have been known as a failure. But because that Longstreet made him look bad, he now looks like a failure. And so actually Longstreet even wrote a book about how stupid Lee was in his war plans. So that's actually, so Michael Shaara kind of leans towards Longstreet in that point of view. And honestly, I would do too, because Lee was kind of stupid. You would actually get mad at him while you're reading this book. So wait, what was my point in saying all that? Oh yeah. No matter how boring this book is, no matter how hard it is a good book. No matter if you read it in middle school or high school or even when you're 70 or something, still read it, because if you're gonna live in America, you should know something about the Civil War. And it's better than searching it up on Wikipedia, because Wikipedia random people go on it and do random stuff. And then this actually won the Pulitzer Prize in 1975. It was published in 1973. So it's pretty reliable. I mean, it's not all facts, but it still is mostly facts and this much bias. Well, that much bias. That much bias. But still, history with bias is still history. Because that's textbooks too. You think those textbooks are reliable? They are not. Okay, the start of history is bias itself. I don't know if this is true or not, but once my teacher told me. Okay, so you know how history was named history? Because you know how men were all that, superior to women and stuff? Okay, so it's history because it's his story. His story. I actually believe that. I think that's right though. And I think that's unfair, because without women, this society would be, what is that? Uncivilized, and inhumane, and immoral, and killing, and fighting, and greed for power, and money, and everything. Yeah. Anyways, read this. This is only section 2, and section 3 and 4 will come out soon. So wait.